to write and they have written. So, the first thing you will be surprised that, or you will be rather amazed, I have not followed what we had given in the directions, 10 marks and 15 marks, because barring 2 answer books, all you wrote was not up to mark. Probably you were caught off-handed, and you probably think, since you have come from different streams other than history, so basically you do not have an idea, most of you, of what history is. Probably in the beginning itself, those of you who want to come tomorrow, I must tell you that you come prepared. I am telling you the questions or the areas from where the questions will be. One is Indus culture. You are right. If you want to come tomorrow, one is definitely this Indus culture. Second again is more an Ashok's contribution to this cultural creativities and cultural, mostly architecture. Number 3, Vijayanagar, cultural, only cultural achievements. 4th, Akbar's religious policy. So, these are the areas from where you will be asked the questions, and tomorrow we will have definitely this 10 marks and 15 marks. So, how you write? This is the basic question. So, I'll say first that you write in points. Only I think 3 persons out of 25, I think 9 have not submitted their copies. Okay, it's all right, because this is the first attempt. Those, how you write? UPSC emphasizes that there is 1 mark on introduction, 1 mark on conclusion. So, you have to write introduction, you have to write conclusion. In the rest of the body, you will always write in points, because only then you will be able to complete your answer. If you do not write, here you have written 2 pages, more than 1 page, you won't have that chance in the final examinations. Unless and until you practice, you cannot do it. So, naturally, in the points, put every material, the correct material, in very brief, but everything you know in a pointed manner. Everything you know in a pointed manner. Number 2 thing is, in these questions, since this was the first attempt, we have not given parts, but in UPSC GS questions, there will be definitely parts. When you are starting a second or a third part, you will start it separately. Again, UPSC emphasizes on that, or in this, that separate parts should be written separately. The third thing, as to what you should do, that you try to give all facts and try to logically integrate it, because supposing you are writing about Ashoks, like Ashok was a very great leader. So naturally, first you write his religious policy, Dham. Probably only 1% referred to Dham. Dham was nothing Buddhism. Dham was simply the basic welfare doctrine, nothing else, nothing else. So speak truth, help your neighbors. These are the parts of 11 dictums of the Dhamma. These are part of that. So naturally you write about that, categorize them. So religious policy, administration, army, then he didn't have any fear of any neighbors, but he had the fear of internal rebellion. So it was for this, because he ruled from Afghanistan to almost the south of Krishna, barring those Kerala, modern Kerala and Tamil Nadu, he ruled even on Burma, parts of Burma, he ruled over that. So naturally, he didn't have any fear or threat from the neighboring countries. He had the threat from internal rebellion. That's why he kept a standing army. Write that the welfare policy. He not only in religion, but even in his welfare policy, he was tolerant towards all. The Buddhist official language was Pali, but he never disregarded Prakrit and he never disrespected Sanskrit. So naturally, these are the things you have to write, and you write only in points. Now, as far as the 3 don't do's are concerned, everybody has written he was a great ruler. Are Baba, by writing great, would he become great? And these adjectives should be avoided. Don't ever use these things, because UPSC gives a 24-page instruction to its examiners. For every question, there is a model answer in UPSC. You need not conform to everything of the model answer, but the model answer never contains any reference to great, all those things, no adjectives. Write exactly what is the material, what is the fact. The second thing is that never beat about the bush. The question is feudalism. Start with feudalism. No ifs and buts. If the question is Alauddin's maligning by history, write what is this maligning? What was the, start with this maligning business by history, that he was maligned for these 2 things. Alauddin was a very tolerant sultan. At least all of the sultans were not tolerant. He had a guru or a teacher. His name was Mullah Maslehuddin. Mullah Maslehuddin always asked Alauddin, why you are not ruling over this large area according to Islamic rules? He said, my subjects or praja is dhimmi, mostly non-Muslims. How could I just impose the Islamic rules? So, I am coming to that, but right now I am saying that you start never starting all those things. The question is this, you are starting with the question.
But in that case, what will be the difference between main body and introduction?
Yes, that's very fine question. that in the introduction, how many lines you write? Only 2, maximum 3 lines. Only 2, maximum 3 lines. You introduce Alauddin has been maligned for his anti-Hindu policy and a brutal king, tyranny. But in reality, he was not, and he introduced uniform policies all over India, including market and land revenue. Clear? You introduced it. So, and then you come down. Number 1, first maligning was, he has been alleged by historians that he was very intolerant towards Hindus. This is not a reality on the basis of modern historical informations, and all because in his time there were historians, and even after him there were many historians. Those Persian scripts now have been deciphered, studied, translated, and so number 2, it has been alleged that Alauddin was anti-woman or tyrannical towards women. Arey Baba, he never went to Chittor, or it was his general who went to Chittor, and he never went to south. It was Malik Kafur, the eunuch, the transgender, who went to a greatest probably military leader, and he recruited large number of transgenders in the army. And so, but two allegations, and you say these are not the case. But point number 1, number 2, right? And no grade, no kind of this other words, you are writing that. After that, you come down to his policies. Yeah.
Can we attempt to go against the informations introduced by
Why not? Why not? Why not? You can easily contest. You can easily contest the opinion expressed in the very, yes, you can write that he has been rightly maligned. He has been rightly maligned. Give a fact. And if it is possible, just to give a historian's name, any historian, you could just give his name, Vincent Smith or other, our Gupta ji or others. You can just pass anybody's name who is an authority on that. You can give his name. No points and no doubts about that. But your contest or your contradiction must be accompanied by a kind of evidence. You have the liberty to contest it. So, as far as the third thing is concerned, that very often you are in this answer also, you have written irrelevant things. What is never write irrelevant? Never, because then your marks are deducted. Because supposing the question is on Alauddin's economic policy and you are writing on his religious policy. No difference to that. Never do this. So, there is a question we had. I am coming on to these two questions, but right now I say that supposing the Gupta Empire, yes, you have written a golden age, but was it relevant here? Almost all who have written this question and they have written this was a golden age, this is irrelevant, because it is true that it is a controversial point. The Marxists, they say it was not a golden age. The nationalists, they say it was a golden period. But was it the question? No. We asked because there is a dispute. Was feudalism established by the Guptas or it was established by Harshvardhan? This is a dispute. This is Basham says no, it was established by the Harshvardhans, and Harshvardhan was the man who initially started the taxation of land. Taxation and land grant are two different things. Land revenue and land grant are two different things. Since you are not history students, don't go for the controversy between R.S. Sharma and Harvansh Mukhia. What is feudalism? Whatever you know about feudalism, write 1, 2, 3 points that this is feudalism, these are the points of feudalism, and this was established first by the Guptas. It is true that at the time of Guptas, not Varna system, caste system. Mind you, Varna system and caste system are different phenomena. Now it has been proved beyond doubt. Earlier the view was, Suviraja Sawal wrote that Varna and caste are same thing. Now after the genomic study of 3 Bengal archaeologists as well as these biologists, they have established that the basic criteria of caste is endogamy, marriage within the same group. In the Varna system, there were the rules of hypergamy and hypogamy. Yayati was a Kshatriya and Devyani was a Brahmani. They married. So, if this marriage was permissible, how there can be a caste system? It was the Varna system. Varna system emerged in the 6th century BC, and this system emerged in 5th century AD, just after the Guptas, because Guptas continued even after 6th century, and there were some people who were there. So naturally, and just I am giving those lectures. By this, you will not learn it. You write 1 question, 2 question, 3 question, 4 question, 5 questions, and then definitely you will just have it. Never think that since you have read it, you can write it in the final exams. No. UPSC is a good examination. I don't say it is a very tough examination. I say it's a good examination. And the competition is, real competition is only in between 10,000 students. That's my view. Only in between. Rest are all just Shamile Baja. They have been also just accompanying the marriage party, nothing else. The grooms and the brides are only 10,000 people. So naturally, as far as now the questions are concerned, how you would have written, elaborate why Ashok is called the real ruler with a standing army but with a pacifist policy and with welfare measures for all. You start the introduction. Ashoka was a ruler because despite his Buddhist faith, he tried to administer with iron hand, but with welfare in his mind. Introduce number 1. Right. He had an standing army because he feared the threat of internal rebellion. The threat of internal rebellion. Second point, he ruled a large area from Afghanistan to almost the south of Krishna river, and from this western parts of India to some areas of even Burma. But because of religious diversity, he felt there can be rebellion against him. He was probably a Jain earlier, then he became Buddhist. But there were threats from Brahmins as well as Jains. Then you write that he was a ruler, good ruler, because number 1 point, or you continuing, if you are continuing the third point, he followed a welfare policy on the basis of Dhamma. And that policy was that he provided food and shelter to all people. Next, he was tolerant towards other religions. There were large number of Brahmins and large number of Jains. Number 3, he was tolerant towards other languages. The testimony is the Ashokan pillars, which didn't have only Pali, but also Prakrit, but also Brahmani scripts engraved on them. Then you write that the Dhamma policy was a policy of helping others, helping the neighbors, and all roads to be covered and lined up with trees and shelter houses. There was no land revenue as such, but he had a system of collecting grains from different people. There is no uniform policy. And then you conclude that Ashok always maintained a standing army to prevent internal rebellion, and he followed a tolerant religious policy not only to other religions but to other people, the Persians, to other languages, and he always gave donations so that no person starves and there is no threat to the people or no security threats to people. That's why I conclude Ashok can be called a ruler with a firm hand with welfare policy. So rest everything in points, give as much information in the points. No, you are beating about the bush. Whatever you know, write in one line. The second question is this: discuss the causes why Guptas are called the founders of organized and articulate feudalism in India. Introduced. Feudalism rests on land grants, settled agrarian economy, some kind of regular revenue collection, and officials to rule and communicate with the central authorities. Right? That the Gupta administration, first point, in the period of Samudragupta, as evidenced by the Allahabad inscription of Hari Sen, had a regular system of land grants to different people and particularly to the Brahmins and particularly to the trusted local rulers. Number two, in the Gupta period, different categories were entrusted with different works, and probably for the first time the Chandals were entrusted with the work of serving others. The third thing, that the Guptas established a system of differential duties. Number fourth, the Guptas deputed different officials from Amate to lower down officials for different purposes. For the first time, the administration was divided into spionage, administration was divided into revenue collectors, administration was divided on law and order maintenance. This was no doubt not a classical feudalism, but this was the beginning of organized feudalism in India. You conclude like that. Clear? Any doubts in that? The next question. It is a question on Harshvardhan. Now, you remember, the question is, comment on the statement, Harshvardhan attempted to repeat the deeds of Samudragupta with broader perspective, but for Pulakeshin too. Where we are saying this, you introduce Samudragupta was a very important warrior who conquered almost whole of the subcontinent, including the southern parts of India. Harshvardhan also wanted to do the same thing, but he failed. Finish. Introduction is finished. Number 1 point that Harshvardhan was the first king after the decline of the Guptas in the 7th century AD to control almost the whole of North India from Afghanistan, Punjab to Pragjyotish, that is Assam. Pragjyotish, that is Assam. His friend or his colleague Bhaskar Burma was the ruler of Pragjyotish, who later on became a Buddhist on the advice of Wensang, who came in his rule. Next point, you write, Harshvardhan had a better perspective than Samudragupta because he became a Buddhist, but he was tolerant towards others. Again, the Allahabad inscriptions, every year Harshvardhan gave large village grants to Brahmins, Buddhists also, Jains also, but also Brahmins. Next point, at his time, Buddhism was on its rise because of Wensang. They organized a Buddhist conference and differences were already there within Buddhism. But Harshvardhan respected all the segments or all the divisions. For example, he was a Mahayani, but he respected the yin-yang sense of Buddhism. Next, that Samudragupta was always favoring the Brahmins, and he was an advocate of the expansion of the revived Brahmanical system. But Harshvardhan wanted to provide welfare to all people, and after Ashoka, he was the first ruler in India who established large scale these dharmsalas or shelter houses. For the first time, Ashoka had established the Bihars and all those shelter houses, even for others. The trees were planted in large number, roads were constructed in large measures. Pilgrim centers at the time of Harshvardhan were developed a lot. So you next point you write that Pulikeshin, the Chalukya ruler, defeated him, and Harshvardhan could not march to the South India and pursue his policies or pursue his tolerant and liberal policies. Conclude with this, that Harshvardhan was an effective warrior. He defeated the killer of his sister and gave punishment to all Buddhist persecutors or who just persecuted the Buddhists. But he never took that kind of revenge which prevailed at the time of the Guptas. Large scale massacres were never resorted to by Harshvardhan. You conclude that Harshvardhan remained tolerant towards different opinions and different religions till his last. Clear? So, now, as far as the fourth question is concerned, I have already told you, but you introduce Alauddin Khilji became the Sultan by murdering his uncle and father-in-law, but once a ruler, he behaved in a tolerant way, although he has been maligned, but he was an effective administrator. Introduction is over. First, number one, he has been maligned as anti-Hindu and persecutor of Hindu followers and Brahmanical followers. Now it is said Mullah Maslehuddin advised him to rule according to Islam, but he refused. Number two, he has been criticized for his tyrannical and anti-woman steps or as a womanizer among the sultans. The reality is he had a very small harem and he did not castrate a large number of young boys to rule over his harem. And he was tolerant enough towards transgenders because out of the 3 generals, his most trusted general was Malik Kafur, and he trusted none else than Kafur till his last. Then you write, you say one line, first line, that Alauddin was probably the first sultan which introduced, number 1, the system of uniform revenue policy by eliminating the intermediaries. Number 2, he introduced a system of the division of land types, and once that land type was decided, uniform revenue was established. Number 3, his market reforms are well known. He introduced fixed prices. Next point. For the first time, he introduced standardization of weighing measures. Even today, this is not in India, only a few small market, these shopkeepers, they have the standard. So, probably although it is out of the track and we are going, how these Ola and these Uber are taking so much of money from India? It's no doubt technology is the first thing, but the second thing is that the standardized pricing system or the charges or the fares. Whenever there is rains in Delhi, the tempo wala or the auto wala enhances his charges. So long we should continue in India, we cannot. Why not Uber is earning money from China? They have got their own systems and they have got 9 these transporting companies in China. We are starting but failing. So, but that's what Alauddin did. Alauddin did a very important thing, that the service charges throughout his kingdom were 1. That means for carrying water, this was uniform coinage system started because the different rulers ceased to have their own coins. No. So, yes, it was the fact that Malik Kafur defeated the Pandya rulers, but did not incorporate the area. So, Pandyas had their own coinage, but the areas including Odisha and including all Punjab and Afghanistan, uniform currency was there, and this was done for the first time. Conclude that Alauddin is a maligned ruler, but probably the first ruler in India to introduce uniform prices and standard weighing measures. Finish. Clear? Any doubts? Any doubts? So we have got some time. Write one answer. Write out of these 4 answers, I am dictating one answer as a model answer. Dictating one answer as a model answer. So the only 3 persons have answered this Harshvardhan. So we are doing this Harshvardhan just to show. Right. Harshvardhan's aim was to rule over the whole of Indian subcontinent. He, after the Guptas, united the whole of North India from Punjab to Pragjyotish or modern day Assam. He was a pragmatic and liberal ruler. Number 1 point. Harshvardhan was very ambitious. Once he had punished Shashank and established his firm rule in Bengal and Pragjyotish, he wanted to march to south. Number 2, Harshvardhan firmly suppressed the rebellion in Western India and Northern India and had an organized army. With that, he crossed the Vindhyas. Number 3, Harsh, unlike Samudragupta, was tolerant towards Brahmins, Jains, and even the heretic groups. Next point. Every year at Allahabad, he donated large amount of money to the saints of different religions. And he never discriminated against anybody. Next point. He always gave grants of villages to the Brahmin priests and himself constructed ashrams for the Brahmin saints. Next, he was like Ashok, a builder of Buddhist Bihars, through fairs, temporary shelter houses for the Shramans, and because of his trusted friend and advisor Huan Sang, constructed shelter homes for all. Next, he was probably one of the last Buddhist rulers before the Pals who expanded educational centers including Nalanda. Conclude, Harshavardhan was ambitious like Samudragupta. He was not conservative like Samudragupta, but a liberal ruler with a liberal perspective, but he was frustrated in his attempts by the Chalukya ruler Pulikeshin II. So, with this, any queries, come prepared, because I have told you the topics from where the questions should be there, because what I am realizing that you are almost off the mark, probably as we have been caught unawares. So yes, some of the, what was your optional and what is your optional? Public administration. Anybody is optional history? Nobody from history. Your optional? Economics. Law. Yours? Public. Geography. So probably we have a larger representation of Prabhat because of our Ansari Sahib. But okay, thank you very much.